Hey everybody, what is going on? Hexlex here. I got another Master Duel video for you. Coming at you with some more branded gameplay. This time I'm on grass branded, trying out the 60 card build with that grass that looks greener. Our first opponent is going to be on Rocket/Dragon Link, and I think this is just a decent going first game that just shows, like, you know, the potential of what you can accomplish on turn one. At least somewhat. I mean, like, as always, I'm very much still learning this deck, this archetype. Feel like I constantly am, no matter how much I play it. Of course, Brand is just that skill-intensive of a deck. I was very glad to have, so in between playing Branded, as I'm sure you've seen some amount of on the channel by now, I've also been playing Mitsurugi, Azumina, Snake Eye Yummy, and that's actually the deck that I ranked up to Diamond with. I was really relieved to get into Diamond 5, because it meant I could practice more Branded without having to worry about tanking my ranking. So, I think I'm doing just about everything right here, question mark. We're summoning out the Ecclesia with the Golden Sword Soul. Now I'm going to use Cartesia to fuse with the Alibur to get that in the graveyard to set up for a future turn. Here's Granganol. We're going to summon that to the EMZ, making sure we have room. That's going to dump Saronir. Saronir is going to activate dumping Branded Fusion. Here's where I did make a mistake, because I don't know why I cannot get this in my head, but for some reason, I keep thinking that Branded Fusion says you can't fusion summon for the rest of the turn, which is obviously not true, because if it were, you would splash this in so many different decks. No, you can't fusion summon, you can't summon except for fusion summoning during the turn that you activate this, period. I feel like I also got a YouTube comment that was telling me that I could synchro in Branded Fusion lately, and that might also be contributing to why I keep misremembering that. Because, like, when it comes to a deck like Branded especially, I just always assume that other people know more than I do. So that was a misplay. I definitely could have used my resources there to do other/better things, but we are going to go for Branded in white here. Which, to be fair, I could have just, if I didn't already have that in hand, I probably would have searched that to keep making fusion plays. Like, dumped that and then added it off the Retribution. But I guess if nothing else, we can just dump the Branded Fusion again, keeping the Ash Blossom in hand. Adding Cartesia back to hand is fine, because we're going to activate Branded Opening here, dumping the Cartesia and summoning Quem. That's right. I was like, I shouldn't have done that. Why did I do that? But then I remembered. That makes sense. Gonna dump Tri-Brigade Springen's Kit to revive the Cartesia. Could have also waited, to be fair, for my opponent to just special summon from the extra deck, or just use Fallen the Virtuous. That also would have revived Cartesia, but anyway. They're going to begin with normal summon Rocket Loader. I'm going to use Ash Blossom on it. They're going to chain Call By, and then also Forbidden Droplet for 4. Which is a little bit scary, to say the least. So, the first two targets they picked really quickly, like during the actual live game itself. They were like, boom, Mirror Jade, boom, Granganol. Then they really took their time on picking the other two. And I was really hoping that they would leave me with either Cartesia or Ecclesia. Either one of these, I think I could have made some plays, but nope, they negate the both of them, so I just have regular Ecclesia, which can only grab Albaz, but I have no cards in hand, and then Quem, which doesn't really do anything with the full board anyway. They're going to use the Rocket Loader, though, to add Destrudo, and then Absolouter is going to add Rocket Tracer. Now, if we read these two cards, Rocket Tracer does not have a way to special summon itself from hand. Destrudo can, but by targeting a level 6 or lower monster on the field. Also, a quick glance at their graveyard reveals no extension from the graveyard. So that means I can just flip up the Fallen and the Virtuous here, pop the Rocket Loader, and then they don't have any more plays. And they know that, so they concede. So yeah, that Forbidden Droplet was a little bit scary, but thankfully it didn't really set up any graveyard relevant effects, which made our opponent's push really easy to stop here with just the Fallen and the Virtuous. Granted, I think my opponent might have still been a little bit hard-pressed to actually OTK me here, even if they could pop off, because, I mean, we just have such a dense board full of cards here, so many different things to push through. Even if they can't use their effects, you know, they all are in defense mode and represent bodies to get over. And, of course, if my opponent doesn't OTK me, I'll get a million effects during the end phase and have many resources to go into the next turn. So there's that first game. Let me show you a more back and forth one here now. Alright, this is going to be a 5-turn duel up against Blue Eyes. And they're playing a lot of interesting techs in their extra deck, like the Cool Tune Back-to-Back is the most notable one that I saw there. Alright, we're going first again. We're going to go Draw Phase, Branded, and High Spirits. Droll and Lockbird unfortunately forces us to dump the Grangadal, which I do really like having access to, obviously, but I guess I could have just gone normal summon Aliber, go search Branded Fusion, but I wanted to avoid a scenario like this where, you know, our Aliber gets impermed and we don't have any more plays. They're going to imperm our Fallen of the White Dragon, and now I can normal summon Aliber, but they're going to Dominus Purge that, so I thought I was going to have an easy Branded Diffusion search, but no dice. Not only that, but the hand traps my opponent used were actually trap cards, so my Triple Tactics talent isn't even live here. At the very least, I can use Albion to set a Fallen and the Virtuous, and the Branded Retribution is live, but I'm going to have to rely on these two face downs to carry me. They're going to use Fallen of the Virtuous on my Albion, or, jeez, there's so many similar names, my Fallen of the White Dragon, which is fine, I don't really care about that. Now, when they normal summon Droll and Lockbird, I thought about activating the Fallen and the Virtuous, but I for some reason, I thought they were just going to special summon some kind of extender from hand. It was as they were linking it away before the card even came down where I was like, oh, duh, Spellcaster, it's probably Blue Eyes. Sure enough, it is Spirit with Eyes of Blue. But that's not that big of a deal. We can just let them add Mausoleum, and then activate Mausoleum, dump the Blue Eyes, and then when they go to, you know, before rather they go to activate Spirit with Eyes of Blue, we're going to pop with the Fallen and the Virtuous. They do have a Maiden in hand, so they can place the True Light. That is obviously going to be the best target to pop here, but now they're going to go Wishes, discard the Drill Beam. However, we can still Retribution the Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons here, which means that our opponent in the grand scheme of things will end up with nothing. They do get Search and Effect Veiler off this Sage, so they will have that, but Veiler really just makes my Triple Tactics talent live, so yep, here's the Branded Retribution. Again, I'm going to use that against the Roar of the Blue-Eyed Dragons. Now they can no longer summon Blue Eyes from deck, and they're not able to continue their combo line. Alright, Branded and High Spirits during the end phase gets to add back, and we are in a little bit of top deck mode here. We need a monster that's relevant to Branded and High Spirits, but we don't get it. We just get another copy of Branded and High Spirits. So, Retribution's going to add back the Fallen and the Virtuous. I'm going to activate, sending Albion, popping True Light. They're going to chain True Light, of course, to get one last card before they lose it. And of course, by popping True Light, the Sage will also get destroyed as well. But it's not just to destroy both cards, I also definitely want True Light off the field so they can't keep getting to their spell and trap cards every single turn. And of course, during the end phase, Albion will set up another copy of the Fallen and the Virtuous. Alright, they're going to flip up the Rage with Eyes of Blue. We're definitely going to need to chain Fallen and the Virtuous here, because we don't want it to get destroyed without activating. So we're going to pop their field spell, and we dumped... Did we dump Ecclesia? We should have. Oh no, we dumped Dragon that Devours the Dogma. Because I really wanted to get something that searched and not just, like, you know, shuffle the card back. So we do have Quem now, which is something. And then here's Albion. So that's awesome. We can go Branded High Spirits and the Albion and grab Fallen of the White Dragon that way. I'm still going to begin by normal summoning Quem, which I'll do here in a moment. First, I'm going to activate Albion, do a little bit of deck thinning. Okay, here's Quem, and that actually does end up baiting the Effect Veiler. So now, I mean, we're just golden. We still have Fallen of the White Dragon, and we also have the Triple Tactics talent as well. And yeah, as soon as they see Fallen of the White Dragon, they just decide to concede and give us the dub. Alright, so yeah, like I said, that was a little bit more of a back and forth game where our turn 1 plays got disrupted, but Fallen and the Virtuous is such a good card, and I think this duel really, really highlighted it, how off the back of that one card engine alone, we were able to stay in the game and eventually outgrind the opponent. It's such a ridiculous card, really easy to see why it's being splashed in so many different decks, but still got a couple more games to show you. Here is the next one. Alright, here's the going second game. This time, I believe we're up against Hero, if I remember right. So let's see what we've got here, as far as like going second hands go. Obviously, Super Poly would be great to see here. But you know, Droll, Saronir, and Ash Blossom against Hero, I will definitely take that. We're going to Ash Blossom the A Hero Lives here. I could have let this resolve and then Drolled after Stratos, but I wanted to force them to use any extenders they had in hand, which thankfully for me was actually 0. We'll definitely take that. And of course the Branded and High Spirits is going to let us get access to our plays thanks to the Saronir here. We're going to dump Titaniclad and then add Fallen of the White Dragon. Saronir also gets to activate. We're going to probably just dump Branded Retribution. Yeah, sounds right. Fallen of White, dump Albion. We're going to summon Activate. They're going to chain Maxi. However, even though we already used our Ash Blossom, we do still have the next best thing. And I do mean the next best thing because Branded really does not need to do searching that much, if at all, in order to do, do its plays. Now here I did misplay. I am playing the Golden Sword Soul, and I was absolutely supposed to go into that first. But I can still fuse the Mercurian in hand, so it's not the end of the world. Okay, wanted to talk about this chain link here. So my opponent is chaining Forbidden Droplet against Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon. They sent Molcharmi Fulos to do it. Now, obviously that means they can't respond with monster effects, so even though Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon is a quick effect, I cannot chain it to Forbidden Droplet. However, I can chain trap cards to the Forbidden Droplet, which is what I'm doing here. Even though Branded and High Spirits will come back to my hand on its own during the end phase, I'm still going to chain Branded Retribution to add it back right now. Why, you may ask? Well, that is because now I can activate the Ecclesia effect. See, Forbidden Droplet states that in response to this card's activation, your opponent cannot activate cards or effects of cards of the same original type as cards sent to the graveyard to activate this card. They sent a monster card, so I chained with a trap card. But there's no rule on Droplet that says I can't chain to my own trap card with a monster card. So we are going to chain Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon to my own Branded Retribution. My opponent's going to concede right off the bat. Now, if I had gone Ecclesia for Golden Sword Soul, then I would have been able to Synchro Summon, and then when... Synchro Summon, and then when Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon banishes, Golden Sword Soul would have revived Ecclesia. I was supposed to do that, and I am playing the Golden Sword Soul. I just totally forgot to, but even if all we had is Ecclesia and the Dark Dragon going into Cartesia, I still could have fused with the Mercurian in hand, so we would have had options, if nothing else. But all right, there is that game. I got one last one to show you, and then I'll show you the deck list. And our final game is going to be up against Kewl, which I actually do still think is just the best deck in the meta. It's really close in terms of power level. Kewl and Branded are, well, they're just two very different decks in terms of not only how they play, like a, wombo combo kind of deal with layered interactions versus a grind game deck, but more than that, Kewl is a lot easier to play than Branded, so that's why in the grand scheme of things it's going to be a lot more accessible, and in tournaments especially you're still going to see it do very, very well. If everyone was a Branded expert, Branded would unquestionably be the best deck in the room right now, but it's a very difficult deck, and lots of people like myself don't really pilot it that well, so... Alright, here our Fallen of the White Dragon is going to get hit with an Effect Veiler, but we've got both Thrust and Talent, so let's see what we can find. Thrust on turn 1, unfortunately, can't do a ton, because obviously our opponent's not going to have a monster in play, so we can't add, like, Branded Fusion just pop off here. But we are playing the Black Goat Laughs. I really like this as a trap card to set off of Thrust in the Grass build, because it's not only got a really good, like, face-down effect, but also it's got a really, really good graveyard effect. So even if you mill it off of Grass, it's still a pretty good card to have in your graveyard. So Thrust will set the Black Goat Laughs. I'm going to triple tack to draw 2 here to try to find some plays, and unfortunately I really just am not able to find anything super relevant here. I mean, I could Branded in High Spirits, reveal Magnum Hut, but I don't... Can add a monster that mentions Albaz. The problem is, like, I think one of my best targets to add right now would be Alibur, which does not mention Albaz. Otherwise... Actually, what all... I really feel like I should have thought about this in the moment. What all else could I have added here? Cartesia... Oh, I could have added Cartesia, Normal Summon, Infused. Wow, that was a huge misplay on my part. Oh, no, wait, I already activated Branded High Spirits. Never mind. That's why I didn't do it. Right? Didn't I begin the turn with that? I did. Okay. Okay. I was like, why didn't I activate there? I didn't display that badly, did I? No. Okay, that makes a lot more sense. Alright, they're going to normal summon Kewl Q and go for Mix. Mix F is going to add the Rotary. Now, as soon as they add Rotary, I'm going to flip up the Black Goat Laughs, and now I'm going to call Trackmaker. And so now, all my opponent can really synchro for, assuming they don't have, like, Recco in hand, at this point is the, what do you call it? The Remix, right? Because they can't make Trackmaker, so the Rotary as a synchro material is kind of useless to them right now, because they don't play a level 3 synchro either. They do have a Recco in hand. Unfortunately for me, they're going to extra normal summon that with the Rotary. Recco is going to activate adding Clip. However, I am going to activate the Fallen and the Virtuous. Now by sending Ecclesia, I'm going to pop the Recco. And now I put my opponent in a weird position because they have Rotary, Clip, Mix, and Kewl. So the only things they can really make are Crackle and Remix. Unless, as you see here, my opponent's going to Synchro Summon for 4, or rather using 4 materials to make an 8. It's going to be Vyz's Ombre Terra. Because that's the only thing they really had the option to make here. Again, aside from Remix or Crackle, which really in this scenario by themselves are not very good. But now they can fire off all of their Cool Tune effects. They get all 4 of them for summoning this Vyz's Ombre Terra. And it's going to be pretty brutal. The Clip's going to go first, because at the end of the chain link, ripping the Mirror Jade sucks. Q finds opening in Maxi, putting Maxi on bottom, opening in Banish, popping Fallen of the White Dragon, and then here's JJ Cool Tune. Alright, now they're going to go JJ Cool Tune effect, activate extra normal summon Ash Blossom, and then send it away. And then they go for a Mix. And here was a huge misplay on my part. I was supposed to activate Magnum Hut while they had Vyz's Ombre Terra plus Mix in play. Because now they're just going to summon back-to-back. And now if I activate Magnum Hut, now the back-to-back gets to special summon tuners out of the graveyard and start synchro summoning. If I had summoned Magnum Hut while they had Ombre Terra plus Mix, they wouldn't have gotten to get an effect, and then I would have had a 2500 body, which should have prevented me from dying here, right? Yeah, because they have back-to-back plus Recco, and those two each being able to attack directly is what finishes me off. If I had Magnum Hut out in attack mode, or defense mode, either way, then back-to-back would have attacked it, then directly, that's 32, and then Recco's 1500 times 2 would have been 3000. That would have left me at 1800 life points. So there, I hugely misplayed. If I had summoned a Magnum Hut, I think I actually would have lived this turn, and honestly would have had a decent shot of winning the duel, although the back-to-back still would have been kind of rough to play through. But I think it was still, I mean, my own misplay aside, still a good example of showcasing us using the Black Goat Laughs to screw up their plays. But now that I've shown you the games, let me show you the deck list here and we'll finish off. Okay, here is my Grass branded list, or 60 card branded. Sorry I didn't have an actual game where I resolved Grass, but, you know, I was playing for a couple of hours and I didn't even have a game where I even saw it, so there's only so much time in the day. I upload daily and I have people in my life that I like to give my time to, so maybe another time we'll get to resolve Grass. Anyway, yeah, it's pretty much just similar to the 40 card list, but more. As far as what we're doing more of here, well, more copies of Albion, because this actually really likes to get milled off of Grass, as well as a playset of Cocatorium, the heavy metal avian. Basically, if this is in my graveyard, or if I just normal summon it, let me rephrase that. I phrased that really poorly. You can either just normal summon this if you open it, or if you mill it off of something like Grass and it's in your graveyard, you contribute a Beast, Beast Warrior, Wing Beast, and then special summon it. Either way, once it's on the field, you can banish any level 4 or lower Beast, Beast Warrior, or Wing Beast from your deck. This will be the Mercurier, which lets you search the Fallen of the White Dragon, making this yet another starter for Branded. An unlikely one, but a pretty solid starter nevertheless. We're also playing a playset of Triple Tactics Thrust. I got one of the alt arts, so that's why one of them looks different. And a playset of Triple Tactics Talent here as well. There's a few other like one-off branded cards we're playing that don't always get played in the 40 card build. Stuff like Despian Tragedy, Branded in White, Branded Sword, Golden Sword Soul I have been using the 40 card build, but you don't always. Springin's Kit, that kind of thing. And as mentioned earlier in one of our games, we're also playing Black Goat Laughs. It's not only a great trap card to set off of Triple Tactics Thrust, but again, you actually don't mind if it gets milled off of Grass, because it does have a relevant graveyard effect too. The extra deck could definitely use some touching up. One card that really should be in here is Alba Lenatus. Well, if I spelled... It's like a dash, right? Alba. Yeah, but I don't actually own a copy of Alba Lenatus, and I don't know, I don't mind playing Branded, but it's not a deck I'm really trying to like main, so I'm really iffy on actually spending the UR craft points for the extra deck option. It really should be in here, especially with how popular Branded is right now. But I will say that I think Branded's popularity is going to fall off at least a little bit, which is like the most predictable thing in the world, right? It's true of literally every deck that's in the selection pack. The first few days and first weekend, it's legal, it's everywhere on ranked ladder, but then as time goes on, you see less and less play it. People play it. I suspect that this will be even more true of branded, which I think a lot of people like me are going to pick it up with the new support and be really hyped, and then realize, oh, this deck is really hard and requires like a lot of dedication to be good at, and then promptly just go back to whatever deck they're comfortable with. So Alba Lanatus is really, really good right now. I think it will have slightly diminishing returns as branded gets less popular, but it's still a really good option, don't get me wrong. I've seen some people talk about like using Super Poly and then playing stuff like, you know, specifically like branded targets in other decks. Like over on the Discord server, someone was recently talking about like, oh, if you're playing Super Poly and Cool Tune, you should play branded fusion monsters as Super Poly targets. That way you're good against branded. That I wouldn't necessarily recommend, just because, like, again, there's going to be a lot less branded on ladder as time goes on, and really something like Mud Dragon or Garura, or if you really want to be a little bit more specific against branded, you could use like Dragostapelia, or something like that, or Secretarian Dragon. But beyond that, I wouldn't necessarily play like specifically something like Mirror Jade as a Super Poly target, because one, a lot of these branded cards require them to have Fawn of Albaz on the field, which they very often don't on your turn, and two, more than that, it's really only going to be useful against exactly the branded matchup. So I don't like having Super Poly targets or any tech that's only good against exactly one deck. In Master Duel Best of 1 Ranked Ladder, I think you are actively tanking your own deck's win rate if you're playing a tech card that is exactly useful against one deck and no others. With some exceptions like Sea Monster of Theseus, but even that, I don't think you really need to play because there's not a lot of Cool Tune on ladder right now. But anyway, that's just kind of my thoughts on Super Poly and its targets, with branded being so popular right now. I would expect that to drop off a little bit, but don't get me wrong, branded is still a really good deck. It's tier 1 for sure. I just don't know how long it's going to be the most popular deck on ladder, but we'll see, I suppose. In any case, thank you so very much for watching. Appreciate the support. By you watching all the way to the end. It's a great way to support not just me, but any smaller YouTube channel, and I really do appreciate it. That's going to do it for now, though, so let's move on to our outro, and that way we can thank our YouTube members and Patreon subscribers. Hey everybody, Hexlex here. Thank you so very much for watching all the way to the very end of the video, which, by the way, is one of the best ways to support the channel. Speaking of supporting the channel, take a look at the names on screen. These are folks who have been so generous as to either join as a YouTube member or subscribe over on patreon.com/Hexlex to support. There's also perks for doing so. If you would like to see YouTube videos early, as well as some exclusive videos that get uploaded to YouTube, but for one reason or another I decide not to publish, definitely go ahead and hit that join button to see content early, as well as some exclusive content. If you're looking for more exclusive content, over on patreon.com, I upload exclusive videos that are not posted on YouTube just about every single day. Whether you choose to subscribe over on Patreon, join as a YouTube member, or simply continue to watch, your support is greatly appreciated. Thank you so very much. But for now, this is Hexlex. I am signing out, and I hope that you have a fantastic day.